International pressure on India grows in the wake of the capital's deadliest clashes in decades. The UN plans to intervene over a controversial citizenship law after dozens are killed in mob violence. I'm Imran Garda, and today's newsmaker is the fallout from New Delhi's religious riots. An uneasy calm may have returned to the streets of New Delhi, but India's capital is still reeling. While US President Donald Trump was dining with Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit last week, the city became a battleground for religiously motivated riots, and not even pregnant women were safe.
I was beaten and they vandalized my house and set everything on fire. I was beaten. We came here on Tuesday, they torched 3 houses and left nothing.
Shabana was one of the lucky ones. She gave birth to her son in the following days. But more than 40 people, most of them Muslims, were killed as armed mobs went from shop to home to mosque, destroying everything in sight. This is what parts of the city look like now. For months, Indians have been protesting against the government's Citizenship Amendment Act. The law offers citizenship to religious refugees from South Asia unless they're Muslim. The bill triggered peaceful protests across the country, but in the capital, things took a deadly turn. Muslims were forced to abandon their homes out of fear of being lynched by Hindu crowds. Some of the victims claim police watched and did nothing while they were beaten. Authorities have been accused, at best, of doing very little to stop the attacks. Critics allege that under Modi's government, Muslims are being increasingly marginalized. But are the Prime Minister's rhetoric and policies to blame for what many are calling a pogrom in New Delhi? Well, to answer that, we're joined from New Delhi by BJP national spokesman Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Also in the capital is Ashutosh. He's the co-founder of the online news platform satyahindi.com and was a spokesman for the Aam Aadmi Party. And Dibyesh Anand joins us from London. He's an international relations professor at Westminster University and the author of Hindu Nationalism in India and the Politics of Fear. Gentlemen, good to have you on the program. Gopal Krishna Agarwal, is this a pogrom?
Not at all, because there was a riot over the initial period, and that blew up because of the massive preparation that took place for those in certain areas. It was restricted to 3-4 areas, and the police ultimately controlled, but there is definitely a cause of concern, and calling it program is not the right word to use it. It's a riot which has to be controlled and which has been now under control.
And when we look at the facts, mosques set alight, people identified by their ID cards to see if they're Muslim. If they don't have the ID cards, credible reports, individuals coming to the media saying they're checked if they're circumcised or not to see if they're Muslim. People burnt, people attacked with acid, people shot at, people stabbed. This is a mostly Hindu mob most of the time, and most of the people who have been killed have been Muslim. A lot of the chants at the time, during the attacks, Hindu nationalist slogans, while police don't really intervene. How is this not a pogrom, sir?
No, but just talking about the riots as a Hindu-Muslim identity is not the correct narration that you are giving. Ultimately, both communities, people have died, and there was involvement of both Hindu and Muslim. You cannot just identify that one community, one religious community attacked on that. In the initial days, there was completely an outside element also to the whole protest. So the people with such a huge preparations, etc.
From where?
And you cannot say that it is only Hindus that is attacked. It is all people from both communities have died.
Okay, there was the existence of brutality against Hindus by some Muslims as well. But according to all credible reports, the vast majority of people who were killed were Muslim, and the vast majority of the people doing the killing were Hindu. You say there were outside instigators or people influencing from outside. Where were they from?
That the investigation will tell, but one point I will tell you, the population of India is
from outside,
majority Hindus. So the thing is that both community, the outside community, finally the investigation will tell, and the police is taking up the investigation. There are more than 120 FIRs have been filed, more than 800 people have been arrested, and the government is investigating. Even the court has taken cognizance of that, and NSA, National Security Advisor, and Commissioner Police, Delhi, Home Minister, all are taking care of what the investigation will ultimately tell. We have already arrested more than 800 people.
So you believe that?
Okay, from both communities.
Okay, so let me. I want to go to Ashutosh then. Okay.
Genocide or
I didn't use the word genocide, sir. I want to go to Ashutosh because Gopal Krishna Agarwal, the BJP spokesman, says that authorities have done all that they can in order to put a lid on this, in order to have accountability, in order to have fairness, and he doesn't believe it was a pogrom. Your response, Ashutosh?
I will not call it a pogrom, but yes, certainly it was a communal riot between the two communities, Hindus and the Muslims, and Hindus were also died and the Muslims also died. But what was striking in this riot was that the police department, obviously for 48 hours, seemed to be not acting as per protocol as they should be acting. So in a way, you can say the police looked away. There was a total intelligence failure. When Mr. Trump was here, obviously the government should have the intelligence report about the sensitive areas. The precautions should have been taken. And when the riot has started, the police department should have immediately imposed curfew, should have immediately ordered shoot at sight. But these things were not taken. So in the end, yes, more number of the Muslims have died, but Hindus also died in this riot.
Ashutosh, the very definition of a pogrom, isn't it the fact that either the authorities participate or they turn a blind eye and they let it happen? That's how we've come to know the definition of what is a pogrom or what is not. So with that in mind, haven't you just given the definition that what happened in New Delhi is quite likely a pogrom?
I will not go by the classical definition of pogrom. Yes, you are right when you define the pogrom. Obviously, the police connivance, the administration connivance is one of them. But me being here, and I could say with confidence that it was a riot which started with the Hindus and the Muslims. Both have been affected, both property have been damaged. But heavily, the Muslims were at loss. And in the end, one could say that the police did not act the way it should act. And Delhi being a very peculiar administrative setup where there is an elected government, but elected government do not have a law and order with them. The law and order is directly controlled by the central government.
Right.
That means Mr. Amit Shah, who is the most powerful man after Mr. Modi in Delhi, so he should be controlling police department. Obviously, there is a failure on his side if it is to be seen that police department directly.
So Gopal Krishna Agarwal. Okay, so you guys lost the local election, but the police department, as we heard, is still under the control of the Home Ministry and Mr. Amit Shah. There's an idea that this was the BJP lashing out. This was the majority lashing out here because they were not happy that they lost an election.
No, this kind of narrations are just interpretation. One thing I tell you, this is somewhere there down the line is the cost of democracy. India has an ecosystem of democratic values where the right to protest is also part of the democratic ecosystem. So if you just take preventive action and not allow any protest in it is done in certain countries, it is not possible in India, and the government does not want to take such a harsh measure.
Do you have a right to torch a mosque as well? Is that part of your democratic
the right to
basket
protest,
of rights?
But the right to protest, though in the right to protest, certain unlawful elements get entry into these kind of things. But ultimately, democracy is what we respect, and that way, certain laxed laws, etc., are there, which have to be looked into for this keeping up an environment of protest, ecosystem of right to protest, then agitate.
I want to bring in Dibya Shannon. I want to bring in Dibya Shannon. Dibya Shannon,
could have a strong government hand to control it, but we don't want that.
Okay, Dibya Shannon, do you believe Gopal?
In fact, let me start with things. In fact, I disagree with all three of you, and I'll tell you why. Imran, you started by saying how Delhi witnessed religious riots. There were no religious riots. We are talking of pogrom, as you pointed out later. So let's be very clear. We're not talking of clashes between two communities. We're not talking of riots between two communities. We are talking of a very well-calculated pogrom imposed by state-backed actors over minority community. The fact that, let's say, around 48 people have been killed, out of which 14 would be Hindus, does not imply, but there's a difference. There's no evidence of any Hindu temples being burnt. There's no evidence of cops siding with Muslims against Hindus. That's why it's pogrom. So now, regarding Gopal Krishna, I'm just listening to him. I was almost amused and also disturbed. First, let me be banal here. It's pogrom, not program. Right? Pogrom has a specific meaning, but the fact that he said program is interesting because, of course, what we are witnessing in Delhi is part and parcel of the wider program of Hindu nationalists in India, which is to convert India from a secular democracy into a Hindu Rashtra, which is a Hindu nation. And that's what it's all about, right? So when they, for instance, talk about, oh, both sides are at fault, and this is sad to see even a liberal Indian like, let's say, Ashutosh, Mr. Ashutosh, almost not being that different from Hindu nationalists, where they say, yeah, what happened was wrong, Muslims are the main victims, and yet it's two-sided. I'm sorry, when we're talking of 1930s Germany kind of situation, we don't talk of two sides. When we're talking situation like the concentration camps against Uyghur Muslims in Turkey and, in Xinjiang, we do not talk of two sides. So let's be very blunt there. It's not two sides. We are talking of one very well-calculated program. And I said, it's very much part and parcel of Hindu nationalist agenda. Okay. And those of us who have worked on Hindu nationalists, they know it's clear.
Okay. Dibyesh, there are no concentration camps of Uyghur Muslims in Turkey, by the way. Just for the record.
No, sorry, not in China. I meant,
Xinjiang.
Well, what you have in Turkey is different. I'm not going to go about crisis of democracy in Turkey. I meant Xinjiang.
Okay, so Gopal, what we're hearing from Dibyesh here, we've got the CAA, the Citizenship Amendment Act, right, which was the trigger for the protest. Now the UN Human Rights Commissioner is looking into it. The Indian government's not too happy with us. But people on the outside, they don't just look at this in isolation. They look at the act, and then they look at the National Citizens Registry, right, in Assam, and they look at what's happening in Kashmir, Article 370, revoking that, and the lockdown and so on, and they say there's a pattern here, and there's a disturbing pattern here because it seems as if Muslims have no place in this country anymore, and it's not an India for all Indians, it's an India for Hindus.
No, but if you want to look into these issues, whether removal of Article 370 from Kashmir or NRC in Assam and Citizenship Amendment Act in the whole country, then you have to look into the historical background of partition in India. When the partition took place, the India and Pakistan were formed based on a religious divide, and that.
But aren't you making the point, Gopal? You're saying that the Muslims should just go to Pakistan.
Bangladesh.
Okay, so this is the point that you're making. Again, the argument that you're making here is that there was partition, so there's a Pakistan for the Muslims. They should bugger off and go to Pakistan.
So, if anybody can call genocide, you should discuss why the Hindu population in Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh in 1947, which was about more than 30%, is reduced to 3%. Who will take care of those refugees? If you look into the European countries, they don't even care for refugees. They don't even allow to people to come to their shore.
Of your critics
they just
here.
Put the
you're
ships
making
away.
the argument of
but
your critics
India
here because
has a tradition
you're saying
of
they persecute their
respecting
minorities,
refugees.
so why shouldn't we persecute our minorities?
No, but we have a tradition. We have a tradition of respecting refugees, giving them shelter, and when you say that our own people who are facing genocide in these countries and annihilation, complete annihilation based on religious persecution, don't we have a right to protect them? Is it not the human rights requirement that India protect those who in neighboring countries who are being annihilated? And why you are calling only Hindu nationalism? There are Christians, Sikhs, Parsis and Jews, they are being given citizenship. How you can call only Hindus are being given citizenship?
I advise you to go and look at our YouTube playlist, because we do shows about all of these various things. You could scroll through it. We invited you for this particular one because you're a spokesman for the BJP. I want to bring in Ashutosh here now, because Ashutosh, you've had a few moments to absorb some of what the others have said here. Give me a reaction.
See, I have argued in my book, and which is 5 years of Mr. Modi and finding out the ideological premises. My book is called Hindu Rashtra. So I'm not surprised by the arguments given by Mr. Gopal. BJP belongs to the parent organization that is called RSS, and RSS was formed in 1925. And their agenda is to convert India into a Hindu Rashtra. And since 2014, there is a very clear patterns emerging which say that the government has moved ahead in terms of converting a secular, democratic, modern country into a Hindu Rashtra, where Hindus will have a primacy and the Muslims will not have the primacy. This is not my statement. If you read Mr. Golwalkar, the second most powerful man in RSS and who was the second chief of RSS, he very clearly writes in his book that Hindus, that the Muslims can only live in this country as a second-grade citizens. Even one of the other powerful man, the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, another ideologue of BJP, when BJP was named as a Jansangh, even he has talked about this. So there is very clear-cut pattern emerging since 2014. And if you see after 2019, Article 370 removal is one of them, and then CAA is categorically hints in that direction.
Okay, Dibyesh Anand, while you react, I want you to fold in something to your reaction here, because as you react, we're gonna play some images of some tweets that we've seen of people believing the inverse of what's happening, saying that actually this is a pogrom against Hindus by Muslims. It's also talking about the fact that this is a Hindu genocide in New Delhi and so on. And this is not something that we're cherry picking from the internet, right? This is massive, and it's almost weaponized as well. And we've also got all sorts of conspiracy theories of like Muslims putting infertility pills in the biryani of Hindus and so on. This is a massive thing. So fold in your response while taking in this idea that there seems to be a lot of misinformation out there as well.
Yes, okay. In fact, see, I apologize, I meant China, by the way, Uyghurs in China. Now, in terms of Hindu nationalists are #1 in the world in one thing, that's about conspiracies. So what they do, of course, is they would always portray themselves as victims. So in my own work, I've looked at the ways in which the Hindu majority, and remember, it's a majority community, they feel forever insecure. Of course, we don't talk of all Hindus, we are talking of Hindu majoritarians, so like say the Hindu nationalists.
Right.
So what they would say is, look, Hindus are under threat from Muslims, Christians, communists and secularists, and all four are enemies that they're going to tackle one by one. Now, they have this slogan called Pehle Kasai Fir Isai, which means first the butchers, that's Muslims according to them, and then the Christians. And one more slogan which would be relevant, the way I was following your discussion with the Krishna Gopal, is they would say, Musalman ke Dohistan, Pakistan ya Kabristan. So that is, Muslims have only two places. One is either Pakistan, so they should be expelled according to the partition logic, according to the BJP spokesperson, or they should be exterminated. So one thing, we are dealing with an ideology, by the way, which is not simply a center-right ideology of the Conservative Party kind. We are dealing with an ideology that is a far-right fascist kind. So that's what we are witnessing. So what we are witnessing now, of course, in India is growing number of Hindus who have been radicalized, made extremist, and who are willing to terrorize Muslim populations, and not only Muslims, in Christians in some other areas, secularists, communists, everyone, and yet they portray themselves to be a victim. And what has worked in their favor, of course, is this facade, I would say, facade of India being world's largest democracy, when India is turning into possibly world's largest fascist country, until unless there's an anti-fascist backlash in India. And until unless that happens, until unless international community wakes up to it now, I think we are looking at a very dire future.
Gopal, come in.
The issue I would like to say that Hindu Rashtra, Hinduism, is a term used by certain sections in our society in India, particularly to terrorize and create fear in the minorities. This has been done several times for political end. These are the issues of
Mr. Agarwal should go to RSS headquarters and read RSS pamphlets. He'll see Hindu Rashtra very much there.
Misinformation. Second thing is that neither it is genocide. It is neither genocide, not a program. It's a riot which has arisen genesis from the misinformation and fear psychosis created by certain sections of our society. So neither
Imran,
this is a Hindu Rashtra, neither it is a Hinduism dominant. We have more than 20. We have more than 20 crore population of Muslims,
so in my own work, Hindu national political sphere, I did not rely upon critics of Hindutva. I only focus on RSS pamphlets. I've interviewed people of RSS. So all my sources were basically Hindu nationalists. And in case Mr. Agarwal thinks I'm lying, he should just go and read. Maybe he should go to RSS headquarters, speak to them frankly, and they will tell them what it is about.
It is an historical fact. The RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh, paramilitary organization, affiliated with the BJP, modeled on the Nazis. There's a historical fact, right? To what extent that plays out today, we don't know. Ashutosh, I want you to have a listen to something, and I'm going to get your response. This is in the mainstream. This is a mainstream anchor in India right now. Have a listen.
The gentleman in question says, sitting with abundant confidence in London, that it appears to him that the CAA might be a way to disenfranchise Muslims. It's all part of one game. A person called Rana Ayub says this is an anti-Muslim riot. This was a bunch of lies. The breaking news is that the death toll, 1 minute, enough. The death toll is now 13.
Police are responsible for it. They answer to the
police
Home
weren't
Minister.
able to stop it. Please do not. Don't you dare. So, Bangladeshi infiltrators are leading violence in the national capital. Hashtag Delhi genocide. Delhi genocide were being used. Were they used or not used? The Western media has also been leading this campaign for far too long. So the only thing I can conclude is all of this was done to time with Trump's visit.
Ashutosh, this is like that anchor in V for Vendetta. Arnab Goswami, to what extent is this affecting the situation on the ground?
Arnab Goswami, at one point of time, was a dear friend of mine, and now he is pursuing an extreme right-wing journalism in this country, and he's basically embedded. He's working as an extension of the government in a way. It has to be understood that this atmosphere of fear, the ecosystem of fear, which has been spread all around, it's not only on the ground. It has been successfully done with the help of the television channels, a section of the television channels, and it's also full of the social media. The fact is that sometimes we get confused between Hinduism and Hindutva. Let me make it very clear. Hindutva is a political ideology which has been pursued by RSS, in which he uses the religion Hindu for the political gains, to communalize a section of the society and to terrorize minorities in this country, where Hinduism per se is a part of Hindu religion. I am a Hindu by birth, and though I'm not a practicing Hindu, but I would not like to be called myself as a Hindutva, because Hindutva is different, Hinduism different, and that's where the problem lies. What these anchors are doing since 2014 onwards, there is a very clear divide. There is a clear divide. The few TV channels, they pursue blatantly, brazenly the agenda pursued by RSS and the BJP, and they take every word said by Modi government without any pinch of salt. They are basically targeting opposition and those who watch
I want to be fair to Gopal here.
Disagrees with the government policies and who criticizes.
Gopal, we have 40 seconds left on the program. We're going to invite you all back to the program soon. But Gopal, very brief final comment from you, please, sir.
Everybody want to use the term Hindutva. It is our term, but they want to define as what they think of Hindutva. Actually, Hindutva has nothing to do with the minorities or other thing. It's a religious connotation, and it's not a political connotation. Okay. If anybody is talking about issues of fear, you see Citizenship Amendment Act, there is no power to take anybody's
we're going to crash live off air. Listen,
so why you are creating this misinformation?
You're invited back onto the program very soon, but I've got to wrap for now. It's been a pleasure. Listen,
this kind of violence.
Okay, I have to wrap.
It's never good to allow fascists to have last words.
I'm sorry. And you've just got the last word there, Divyash. So there we go.
Oh, good. That's fine.
Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. That's all the time we have for today's show. We'll leave you now with images from the months of unrest over the Citizenship Amendment Act that led up to New Delhi's violence. Bye-bye.